Imagine if your entire existence could be obliterated not by a weapon or poison, but by a single word spoken in the Roman Forum. The heart of the city where all business, politics and gossip converged. That word was synedus, a label reserved for what the Romans despised most, an effeminate man, a passive sexual partner, the antithesis of Roman masculinity. And this word didn't just offend, it was a death sentence not handed down by an executioner, but enforced by society itself. You think cancel culture is harsh. The Romans perfected social annihilation over 2,000 years ago. In Roman society, masculinity wasn't merely expected, it was the very foundation of citizenship. To be called synedus wasn't just an insult. It was utter destruction. It signified behaviours that went against every core Roman value. Taking the passive role in sex exhibiting feminine traits, showing softness traits that made you weak, emotional, and unworthy of being Roman. But here's where it gets chilling. No evidence was required, just an accusation. There was no bloodshed, no grand execution in the arena. It was simply a word, one that spread like a virus through the forum, the baths, dinner parties, and the streets. But this wasn't the end. The Romans had a special punishment for those they deemed unmanly. They called it infamia, legal infamy, and it was far worse than death. According to the moral writings of the time, it wasn't exile or imprisonment that awaited you. It was the systematic stripping of every right that made you Roman, all while you were forced to live among those who now saw you as less than human. The Plorian Edict. Rome's legal code specifically listed those subjected to infamy: actors, gladiators, prostitutes, and men who submitted themselves to feminine sexual roles. All were seen as having sacrificed their masculine dignity, all condemned to the same civic death. Your right to vote was gone. The very assemblies that governed Rome continued without your input, as though you had never existed. Your ability to testify in court was worthless. Your words held no more power than those of a slave. In a society built on legal contracts, you were rendered invisible even to justice. Think about it. Someone could rob you, assault you, destroy your property, and you couldn't even testify to your own suffering. But the nightmare didn't stop there. The cursus honorum, the sacred path to political office, was forever closed to you. A man who might have dreamed of wearing the purple-striped toga of a senator could no longer stand for even the lowest office. Your political career was dead before it ever began. The economic consequences were just as devastating. You could no longer bring lawsuits to protect your business, enforce contracts, or pursue those who owed you money. In a society that revolved around legal agreements, you were a ghost with no rights to defend your property. And here's the truly cruel twist: the stain of infamia was hereditary. Your sons would find doors slammed shut before they could even knock. Your daughters would struggle to secure respectable marriages. Your family name became tainted, cursed, with the stigma of your supposed unmanliness passing from one generation to the next. Unlike exile, where a man might find a new life in distant lands, infamia followed you everywhere the Roman Empire's reach extended. From the cold forests of Britannia to the searing deserts of Egypt, from Hispania to Syria, the mark of disgrace clung to you, an unshakable shadow. The entire Roman Empire transformed into a prison for these men. But if the legal death sentence was horrifying, imagine the daily torture they endured. Roman society turned humiliation into an art form. For those accused of unmanliness, every public space became a stage for their destruction, and every citizen acted as both audience and participant. It began with the salutio, the morning ritual where clients visited their patron's home to pay respects and seek favours. This was no mere social nicety, it was how Rome operated. Business deals, political alliances, and legal help all flowed through these morning gatherings. Now picture this. You've been accused of being synedus. Watch as your atrium empties over time, visitors slowly dwindle to a few, then complete silence. Former clients find urgent business elsewhere. Even slaves start avoiding your contaminated household. The isolation is complete, but it's only the beginning. The public baths, once bustling social hubs, where Romans conducted business completely naked, became daily chambers of torture, not with chains and whips, but with something far worse: synchronized social rejection. You enter the tepidarium, the warm room where men gather to discuss politics and trade. Conversations halt mid-sentence. Groups reform, turning their backs, creating walls of flesh to exclude you without uttering a word. Someone may loudly joke about Greek customs or feminine beauty, waiting to see your reaction, eager for you to flinch. But the forum, that's where the real destruction unfolded. Graffiti appeared overnight on familiar walls, not hidden away in dark alleys, but painted boldly in public spaces where anyone could see. Lucius takes it like a woman. The senator's son prefers to be conquered. Crude drawings that didn't need words to make their point. Your name, your reputation, your very manhood, all destroyed in misspelled Latin and obscene pictures. Professional mockers made it even worse. Actors performed exaggerated skits with hip-swiveling walks, and mimes acted out graphic sexual scenarios, turning the crowd into an audience of pointed fingers and mocking laughter. You could only stand silent, powerless. Defend yourself and you validate the accusation. Walk away and you're still guilty. There was no winning. Even public religious ceremonies offered no sanctuary. At sacrifices, whispers followed you like shadows. Priests might declare omens unfavorable when you approached. The gods themselves seemed to reject men who failed at masculinity. What made it all so brilliant was that there was no central authority directing this destruction. No one gave explicit orders. Society itself became the mechanism of annihilation. Every citizen understood their role, without needing to be told, isolate, mock, exclude. The accused walked through Rome like a ghost. Everyone saw him, but no one acknowledged him as fully human. This is the essence of social murder. No executioner was needed when society itself held the knife. Social murder was devastating, but financial murder ensured that the victim couldn't survive it. In Rome, reputation was currency. Destroy a man's masculine reputation and watch him go bankrupt in real time. The Roman economy ran on personal networks, trust, and social standing. There were no banks as we know them, only relationships. Every business deal, every loan, every opportunity flowed through personal connections. Sever those connections, and you sever the man's financial lifeblood. Here's how economic assassination worked. On day one after the accusation, your credit evaporates. The loan you were negotiating suddenly faces liquidity issues. The merchant who's traded with your family for generations finds that his ships are mysteriously fully booked. Polite excuses, apologetic smiles, but the message is clear. Your money is no longer accepted here. By week one, new disasters emerge. Business partners remember urgent obligations elsewhere. The wine merchant from Campia, the grain supplier from Africa, all develop shipping problems that somehow only affect your orders. Silent partners withdraw investments without explanation, citing legal reasons. By month one, employment becomes impossible. Think about it, who would hire you? Teaching positions need students, but what father would send his son to learn from a suspected Synodist? Legal advocacy requires appearing in court, but the infamous are banned from that too. Military commands, provincial posts, priesthoods, all required the masculine reputation you no longer possessed. For senators who were legally prohibited from engaging in open commerce but invested through proxies, the financial destruction was especially vicious. The trusted freedmen managing their affairs suddenly remembered urgent family obligations in distant cities. Agents began to develop scruples about their employer's reputation. The intricate networks that allowed aristocrats to profit from trade while maintaining their social facade vanished overnight. Then came the death spiral property sales. At first you sell the extras, the Greek statues, the extra slaves, the seaside villa you visited only twice a year. Buyers sensing desperation like sharks in bloodied water offer you half what things are worth. You take it because you need the money. Then come the essentials urban property that generates rent-productive farmland investments in shipping ventures. Each sale is public, each confirming your downfall, and each one makes the next sale more desperate. The prices keep dropping. Finally, the family home itself, the ancestral property held for generations where your father's father was born, must be sold to pay off mounting debts because no one will do business with you anymore. Here's the truly vicious part: poverty became proof of guilt. Romans believed that the gods rewarded virtue with prosperity. If you were truly innocent, surely you'd maintain your wealth. Your economic destruction became evidence of your moral decay. The system justified itself financially, destroying men, then pointing to their poverty as proof that they deserved it. One account describes a former praetor, a high magistrate reduced to lending money in back alleys at illegal rates, the only business left to him. Another tells of a once wealthy merchant who survives only by attaching himself to criminal enterprises, the legitimate economy now closed to him. But even this wasn't the worst fate awaiting the unmanly. The worst was being erased from existence itself. The final punishment didn't end with death, it often began while you were still alive, watching as it happened. For Romans, true immortality came through memory sons carrying your name deeds, recorded in history monuments proclaiming your achievements. To be labelled unmanly was to be denied all of it. Not just killed, but unmade. Not just forgotten, but deliberately erased. Every noble Roman family had its imagines, wax death masks of ancestors displayed in wooden shrines. During funerals, actors would wear these masks, literally bringing the dead back to witness their descendants' final journey. The family's history lived in these faces, with painted family trees connecting generations of honour. But for the man declared unmanly, his mask would never join the display. The process was methodical. Family archives once kept on wax tablets could be scraped clean, leaving gaps where names should have appeared. The elaborate genealogies painted on atrium walls would develop strange blank spaces gaps that future generations would notice but never question. Some silences were too dangerous to break. Public records followed suit. Names were chiselled off monuments, leaving smooth scars on otherwise detailed inscriptions. One stone in the forum, once bearing the name of a consul, now read Patror. Scraped away. Everyone knew whose name had once been there, but no one would speak it. Statues disappeared overnight. Their bronze was melted down their bases, repurposed for worthier subjects. Public lists of magistrates, military commanders, and priests developed blank years, seemingly empty periods where no one had held office. Though the truth was something else entirely. Even the bureaucracy participated. Tax rolls were altered, census data adjusted, military service records were lost, creating administrative ghosts. Men who must have existed, dates proved it, but left no official trace. Private memory too was erased. Letters mentioning the condemned were burned not by state order, but by friends who feared contamination by association. That touching note from your brother, business documents proving your success, that invitation to dine with a consul, all destroyed by people who had once called you friend, but now terrified of the stain your name left behind. Dinner parties became minefields of memory. Mention the wrong name, recall the wrong year, and feel the room freeze. Children asking about gaps in family history, who was father's business partner, received sharp warnings. Some questions weren't meant to be asked. Some names weren't meant to be spoken. The erasure extended beyond death. No public funeral rites, no procession through the streets, no eulogy in the forum, no tomb along the Ion Way, proclaiming virtues for travellers to see. The man who'd been erased was gone from every corner of the empire. Even in death he had been made invisible. While other Romans erected grand monuments visible from the road, the graves of the unmanly, if they were buried at all, remained unmarked, unvisited, and unmourned. One inscription found in a private family tomb reveals the deliberate erasure. It lists Marcus, son of Gas, followed by Quintus, son of Gas. But Gas, it seems, had 3 sons. The middle name, Gon, is filled with decorative carvings as though the third son never existed at all. But here's the cruelest irony. We only know about these erased men through their enemies. The very people who destroyed them preserved their memory in laws, condemning them, in speeches attacking them, and in graffiti mocking them. They exist today only as cautionary tales, as examples of what not to be. The Roman message was unmistakable: fail at masculinity and you won't just die, you'll never have lived at all. As the sun sets over the ruins of the Forum, we see that the methods Rome perfected for destroying its unmanly never truly vanished. They evolved, adapted, and found new expressions in new empires. Does this sound familiar? The accusation of insufficient masculinity remains one of society's most potent weapons. No evidence required, no defense permitted, and wounds that never heal. Rome's brilliance wasn't in creating homophobia. Such prejudices existed before and elsewhere. Their genius lay in bureaucratizing gender policing into a system that was not only systematic but legal and economically enforced. They turned masculine anxiety into a machine that ran on fear, producing conformity through its very design. Now think about modern parallels. The whisper campaigns in workplaces questioning someone's toughness, the social media pile-ons for appearing soft, the sudden realization that contracts need renegotiation opportunities, evaporating networks closing. Different terms, same structure. Reputation destroyed, income strangled, existence erased while the body still breathes. What made Rome's system particularly vicious was its self-perpetuation. Each man who fell served as a warning. Fathers pointed to the destroyed as examples for their sons. See what happens when you fail to be man enough. The lesson sank deeper than any law. Masculinity must be constantly proven, constantly defended, constantly performed for an audience that never stops judging. But here's what they don't teach in history class. The Roman system contained its own contradictions. Emperors who loved too openly but were too powerful to be destroyed. Hadrian mourning Antinous with a grief deemed un-Roman. Graffiti from Pompeii revealing desires that violated every public norm. The very existence of laws against unmanly behavior suggests how common such behaviors must have been. In the end, power, not morality, determined who survived accusations. Even Julius Caesar, the great conqueror, was mocked as the Queen of Bithynia for allegedly adopting a passive role with King Nicomedes. But Caesar commanded legions. He survived. The merchant's son, accused of the same crime, disappeared from history. Today's society has inherited Rome's tools refined over centuries. We've simply become better at pretending that the destruction is natural, that it's deserved rather than orchestrated. The Senate House has become the boardroom. The forum has been replaced by Twitter. The graffiti lives on Reddit, but the fundamental mechanism endures, using gender performance as a weapon to maintain hierarchies, silence opposition, and enforce conformity. Consider how we still police masculine boundaries, economic punishment for those deemed insufficiently aggressive, social isolation for showing emotional vulnerability, career destruction for violating unwritten gender codes, digital erasure, replacing chiseled names on stone. The question isn't whether we inherited Rome's methods, it's whether we'll keep perfecting them. In the ruins of the Forum, tourists snap selfies where citizens once gathered to destroy each other with words. The stones remember what we prefer to forget, that civilized societies can perfect cruelty, systematize shame, and call it justice. 2,000 years later, which modern mechanisms mirror Rome's ancient fears? How do we still commit social murder in the name of gender policing? What word in your workplace, your community, your feed carries the power to destroy? The answers aren't in dusty histories, they're in tomorrow's headlines, where someone somewhere is being erased for failing to be man enough. Romans called it infamia. We call it cancel culture. The methods evolved, but the machine never stopped. Thank you everyone for watching the whole video. Please like and subscribe to watch more good videos.